rocking, we're rolling. It's IB Countdown to Kickoff. We've got the trifecta back in the house tonight. I'm Sean Stiers with Vince D'Addario and Young Stiers. Jesse is with us as well. How's everybody doing?
Living the dream. Got the game day fit. There's no way Notre Dame loses at this point.
Yeah, I got
Just end the show.
Game day polo, the green IB hat. It's game time, baby.
I almost feel like the confidence is it's like too much, maybe. I don't know.
Well, they've already turned my we're gonna win into a meme. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter today. So
I saw the video.
You know, I guess that's what I was referring to. But yeah, it's already been cut, spliced, and put into the ether.
Face it, Vince. There are worse things you could be memed for.
You're not wrong.
I need that to be sent to me so I can have a chuckle. I've been in a bad mood.
Oh, I got you.
Did you guys see? I can't remember which one of you. We did this in rapid fire. Who should be the guest picker for game day?
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
So it was Jesse and I.
It was Tuesday. Did they pick it?
Did you see who got it?
I did.
When did they announce it?
Just tonight.
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn, ladies and gentlemen. Vince Vaughn.
Yes, that's who I wanted. I
don't even know who Shane Gillis is. I've heard this name floating around. No idea. Is that a country singer or something? No idea. Sounds like a country singer.
I believe Shane Gillis is either a comedian or a country singer.
He is an American comedian and radio personality.
Oh, okay.
Stand-up comedian, sketch comedy writer, podcaster, co-host with fellow stand-up comedian Matt McCusker of Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast, the most popular podcast on Patreon.
All right. Well,
still don't know who it is, but that's okay. Google.
I know who Vince Vaughn is, and Vince Vaughn is going to be the guest picker. Vince Vaughn, who Vince D'Addario once had a sideline encounter with many years ago.
He will always, will always be tight because of that, and he's in one of my favorite movies, Rudy.
Yep.
He's
I thought you were going to say Wedding Crashers.
He's in many of my favorite movies. Wedding Crashers, Old School.
Old School, good quality stuff.
Dodgeball,
right
Dodge, Duck, Dip, Dive, and Dodge.
Yeah, he had a stretch there where, he was untouchable. Just untouchable. And I don't even know, has he really even done anything lately? Doesn't matter, because the work that he's already done is unbelievable.
The only two things I could tell you he has done in recent years, and this hasn't been in the last couple of years. He did The True Detective with Rachel McAdams, kind of a reunion of Wedding Crashers, but a totally different theme. They did, I think it was season 2 maybe of True Detective.
Okay.
Probably the worst season that they've done, unfortunately.
Fair enough.
And he did one of those war movies a couple of years ago, the one that Mel Gibson directed. It was the one about the conscientious objector who went, became a medic and saved all the people. Like Vince Vaughn, I think he might have been a sergeant or something like that.
Okay. I'm looking right now on his filmography and
his catalog.
He's got one. He's a voice of something, and then it goes all the way back to 2021, and then a couple in 2020. But yeah, stuff I don't really recognize. So yeah, Hacksaw Ridge. Is that what you're talking about?
That was it. That was
2016.
Man, 7 years ago already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just glad Vince Vaughn, guest picker.
Yep. I think that hit that one out of the park. Like that's fantastic. He's obviously good on camera. He's going to make some jokes. I think he is knowledgeable of the game. Those are all very important parts of this. And,
Jamie O'Hara, of course, as you mentioned.
Number 44 with the cannon arm on the halfback pass. That was for you.
Well, let's talk some football. We've got a big matchup. Notre Dame and Ohio State. The Irish, of course, coming off their 41-17 win over Central Michigan. We saw touchdown passes of 75 and 76 yards to Tobias Merriweather and Chris Tyree. Notre Dame had just 6 offensive plays that went 40-plus yards last year. Through 4 games this season, they lead the country with 11 plays of 40-plus yards now. How much of this, guys, do you think is on the quarterback? How much do you think is the scheme of Jared Parker?
I look at this as like a 60-40 type of ratio, and I'll give 60 the majority to Sam Hartman, because I think they have a quarterback who has the confidence and the ability to read defenses, and that leads to being able to have decisiveness when it comes to throwing the ball downfield. And then I give the other 40% to Jared Parker, because I think he's come up with a playbook that's not too cute. He gets his guys where they need to be, and he allows Sam Hartman to just put the ball on him at the end of the day. So I think Sam Hartman is ultimately, the guy who's obviously making it happen. He's got the arm talent and the ability to read defenses and, all that good stuff. But I think Jared Parker is also giving him a better opportunity, maybe more so than we've seen in the past with Tommy Rees and some of the other quarterbacks that Notre Dame has had.
I agree with everything that Jesse said, but my ratio, I think, would be more 25-75 and I would give 75 to Sam Hartman, 25 to Jared Parker. And here's my reasoning why.
Okay.
There were guys running wide open down the field in the past. And, even with the Tommy Rees offense, there were still guys running wide open down at the other end of the field. And the quarterback would not throw the football. For either they didn't want to, couldn't, didn't see it, whatever the excuse was.
Wasn't brave enough.
It wasn't happening, right? Now they have a quarterback who's willing to do it. Now, I do think that there are some calls specifically to throw the ball down the field. I do think that. I think game plan-wise, going into the Central Michigan game, I think there was a concerted effort to throw to the outside receivers deep. I do think that was a thing. I have no proof of that, but based on what I was watching and the way Sam Hartman was operating early on in the game, I do think that was the deal, right? But at least he's willing to put the ball down there. Yes. And for the last 4 quarterbacks, that has not been the case. Not since Deshaun Kaiser.
I think in that range, Jesse, did you say 70-30 or 60-40?
He said 60-40.
60-40, so you're a little bit closer. I'm more in the Vince range, in that 70-75 range, just because we've just gotten so frustrated over the years watching guys like Ian Book being unwilling to throw the ball downfield, unable to throw a guy open, essentially, unable to make the correct reads and know where to throw the ball. And that, to me, is the biggest part of this whole thing. It's still a quarterback who knows how to go through the progressions, not rush through the progressions, and knows how to anticipate guys coming out of the breaks. And, there are a couple things that come along with it, because I guess, and I don't subscribe to the, like I don't literally have a subscription to the Pro Football Focus where they show all the, I'm not saying I don't believe in what they're saying when I say I don't subscribe to it, is my point. I don't, because, you have to pay for that stuff, to get the good stuff. But based on some things that I read this week, Notre Dame's wide receivers have one of the, if not the best percentage in the nation in terms of the way they run their routes and, all those, and that matters as well. And so that goes back to the coaching of Chancey Stuckey. Jared Parker is involved in this, but the comment that he made this week that you and I talked about earlier this week, Vince, that it is more about the players and not the scheme. It's just they flat out. Now, it's easier when you have a quarterback who can do all the things that Sam Hartman does, but they trust their players to make plays. They're obviously putting their players in positions to make plays. So it does go hand in hand. But I mean, as we keep kind of, banging the drum on Sam Hartman, it's I think a lot of it is on him. And, we'll just kind of go into that conversation right now, because Marcus Freeman was talking about the experience of the quarterback earlier this week. And, well, for some reason, it doesn't look like I have that. I don't know. We'll have to call an audible on this. Let me just ask you this.
Okay.
As we look at this game specifically, Notre Dame and Ohio State, how big a factor do you think Hartman's experience is compared to Cal McCord for Ohio State in this game?
I'll go.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, Vince. I was
you're good,
very
brother.
eager to answer this one. I would say Sam Hartman
obviously.
Sam Hartman's experience is the biggest difference maker in this game. It's ultimately what's going to win or lose the game for Notre Dame. Kyle McCord is a first-time, starter. And I know he's played 3 games, but like, let's look at those games at IU, at home against, I can't remember where the Western Kentucky game was, or the Youngstown State.
Well, they didn't play it at Western Kentucky or Youngstown State.
Right.
Those were 2 home games.
Yep.
Indiana, I believe, was at Indiana.
Yeah. And so, Indiana is Indiana. They're not great. And so what I'm getting at is Kyle McCord is a first-time starter, and he hasn't really played a difficult matchup yet, right? It's just been, okay, we'll figure out how we need to get the ball to Marvin Harrison, how we're going to incorporate our 2 running backs into the game plan. And ultimately, Sam Hartman is kind of the complete opposite. He's in his 6th year. He's been to probably just about every college in the country. That's a little dramatic, but at the same time, he's what's going to win you the game. I think the difference in the quarterbacks from last year to this year, it's like a complete 180. You have a guy who was a top 5 draft pick, and Tyler Buckner, who was a guy who was making his first collegiate start ever on the road at Ohio State. And I think it's similar for McCord this year. It's his first true start against a tough opponent. It's on the road. It's a top 10 matchup. It's a night game, and Notre Dame is drastically better than last year. So I think the quarterback play is ultimately what's going to determine the game, and Sam Hartman's experience is what's going to lead him to play better than Kyle McCord.
Not so fast, my friend. I'll give you a Corsoism since I dogged him earlier this week.
Yeah.
But I agree that the quarterback position, like as I was writing out my prediction earlier this week, and I was trying to think of, what to say and what's going to be the difference in this game and, all of those different things. And I'm thinking about all these different matchups and all these different, position group versus this position group and all this. It's a lot of evenness, and if that's even a word, like a lot of position groups that I think could go either direction depending on who plays, better that day. And I know that sounds ridiculous. The one spot where I think Notre Dame has a distinct advantage is at the quarterback position. I really do. Now, 2-3 years from now, maybe Kyle McCord is that guy. But this is his first real road test. Night game, everything that's going to be going on at Notre Dame.
I think it's his first test in general.
Well, no, I agree with that too. But I think that Hartman has all this experience, and it's going to pay off. Now, the only thing I'll push back on, and we'll get to this a little bit later, is I don't think that's going to be the difference between winning and losing. I don't think so. It very well could be. I think that's going to be more in the trenches. But that's a different. That's not the question that you asked. But I think that it's going to be important. I think Notre Dame has a distinct advantage at the quarterback position.
I think Kyle McCord is much more a game manager at this point in his career because of the inexperience that there's ability there.
Would you
just
give
like
him
everybody
Brock
else at
Purdy
Ohio State
comparison?
Well, for what they're asked to do, Brock Purdy's obviously doing it in the NFL, and it's a pretty good comparison because when you look at the talent that's around them, that's what helps Brock Purdy. He's got a good offensive line. And he's got a lot of talent around him with Samuel and Kittle and McCaffrey and
for sure,
Ayuk and all those guys. And obviously, Kyle McCord has all this NFL talent. He's got a good tight end. He's got a whole receiving core who are all going to play in the NFL. The whole thing. Don't know if his offensive line is as good as, like what Purdy has, but at the same time, I think it's fair. And what I've said all week is between the two, if you have to put the game on the shoulders of a quarterback in this game, you're going to be much more comfortable. Sam Hartman is the guy you can put the game on the shoulders of. Kyle McCord is not at this point.
He hasn't proven it, right? I mean, maybe this is his coming out party. You know what I mean? Maybe he puts Ohio State on his shoulders.
He hasn't shown himself that he's that guy.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And look, none of the games for Notre Dame have been close, right? We can all agree on that. But Sam Hartman has engineered some, last, 2-minute drills and done it with ease. So if it comes down to that, then I do like Sam Hartman.
I think the biggest difference is Kyle McCord gets bailed out by his wide receiver. Sam Hartman bails himself out by being a good quarterback.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think that's a good way of putting it. We'll come back to more on this in a little bit, but I wanted to talk about Notre Dame's defense. We look at this team. They're number one. The defense is number one in the nation in pass efficiency defense through 4 games. Now, again, it helps when you've played Navy and they're not going to throw the ball and that kind of thing. But still, 4 games in.
It is what it is.
You played 4 different teams, but they also have just 6 sacks through 4 games. Marcus Freeman says he's fine with that he doesn't necessarily need the sacks. They do have, I think it's 23 quarterback hurries, so there is at least some disruption going on, and that helps out your secondary, your pass efficiency numbers and all that. But are you good with the way this is operating right now? Number 1 pass efficiency, but only 6 sacks through 4 games.
I'm good with it as of September 23rd.
Right now.
You know what I mean?
Because it's worked so far.
Correct. I'm good with it because they have played some funky type of offenses. You've got the scrambling quarterback. You've got, they haven't really faced a pocket passer as of yet, right? And so their hurry numbers are up, which I do like. I, of course, would like them to get home a little bit more often, but those hurries are leading to interceptions. They're leading to turnovers. So if you're giving me the option of a sack versus an interception, obviously I'm going to take the interception. Now,
right,
that's not always a give and take. I mean, it's not always, tit for tat, if you will. But I like the fact that they are getting these quarterbacks on the move. If Notre Dame is going to be successful in this game against Ohio State, not only are they going to have to get McCord on the ground, but they're going to need to hurry him. They're going to need to make him throw on the go. That's not his game. That is not where he wants to be.
They got to speed him up.
They've got to speed him up. You can't let him sit back there, go through his progressions and get the ball out to these amazing receivers. I want him trying to figure it out on the fly. Right. I think that's where Notre Dame wants to be. So I would love for them to get him on the ground. There's no doubt about it, but I want him running for his life a lot too.
So there's some good things Vince said in there. I'll acknowledge that. But here's what I would say. It's they've played Navy, they've played Tennessee State, they've played Central Michigan, and they've played NC State. None of those teams have a dynamic passing attack, right? But that isn't the defense didn't need to sack the quarterback to win. They needed to accomplish other things to win. And for this game specifically, you need those sacks. I understand, and we talked about this a little bit on Tuesday. Getting sacks is ultimately what is it contributes to pass efficiency defense because it's less time that your defense has to cover in the secondary. Those things help your secondary out. And so if the secondary is performing without, as many hurries and without as many sacks, yes, that's super impressive, but that's not going to last long, I guess what I'm saying. And they haven't gone against a passing attack like they're going to go against Ohio State. So what I'm saying is you need it against good teams, really, really good teams. You need to be able to get a couple sacks in there. It's not one of those games where you're going to sneak by and only have, 1 sack or no sacks and win the game, because you need those game altering moments, momentum shifts, maybe a turnover, whatever it might be. But it's a double-edged sword for me at the same time, because I don't believe Kyle McCord is a true pocket passer. And so if you start blitzing him and you start doing more things to get after him, I think that helps him out because it gets him into one-on-one coverage and he can throw to these wide receivers that could potentially bail him out. And so I'm okay with bringing pressure, but I don't want to see any 6-man pressures. I don't want to see any safety pressures. Yeah. I think it's either 4 or 5-man pressures, but you got to do something to get in his face and get him down and at least hit him, right? He needs to be falling to the turf. He needs to know where he's at. He's playing at Notre Dame, and it's big time, right? Those guys need to give him a couple hits and welcome him to the game.
I agree with parts of what both of you were saying, and I guess I would just add that if you get a sack as opposed to just a hurry, if it's a hurry, that means the ball is in the air. So there's a 50-50 chance of something going right for you, something going right for the other team. If you sack him, and especially as we're looking at this game, like Jesse said, the bigger opponents that you're talking about, you're putting Kyle McCord behind the chains. You're putting him in disadvantageous situations. Your defense is gaining you yards by coming up with a sack, and there's also a chance that you can strip sack, cause a fumble, whatever disruption you're talking about. You would think, again, throwing Navy out, but there are 3 other opponents who are throwing the ball. You would think that you would have more at least a few more sacks against those kind of teams than what they have, but they haven't. Like you look at the other side of it, Ohio State's in the same boat. I think they've only got 5 sacks in their 3 games. So their pace is about the same, basically. It hasn't really come for them either. So I don't know. The operation looks good right now. And to the point where you were talking about with the blitzes, Jesse, Marcus Freeman talked about that or I guess it was after the game last week. Look, you can't keep blitzing and bringing 6 guys if it's not getting home because of what you're talking about. And then in a game like this, where McCord can get out of the pocket and do some of that different stuff and find one-on-one matchups and, throw it up there and let one of his receivers make a play, you can't just be blitzing to be blitzing. They need to be blitzing with a purpose. And that's part of the problem. When you blitz as much as Al Golden does and they're not getting home against better teams like this, problem. It can be a big problem. That's right.
Can't do that this week. You can't.
I don't want to see the safeties blitzing at all in this game after last year. Call it PTSD. I don't want to see. I want to see the safeties back.
You know who did a good job of blitzing? Thomas Harper. Let him blitz. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we don't need to blitz from 10 yards back like that. You cannot give him because look. I don't care how fast you are. You're blitzing from 10 yards back. It's going to take a minute to get to where you need to be. Mm-hmm. He's going to have plenty of time. You might as well just take 2 guys off the field. I mean, it's just not – that doesn't work. That doesn't work. So you're right. If I see the safeties blitz, I'm going to punch you in the arm.
Let me throw this one at you guys real quick. 18 penalties Notre Dame's committed in the last 2 games. How concerning is it?
I think it's a little bit concerning in the fact that you can't allow it to happen against an opponent like Ohio State. It needs to be really cleaned up because those are some of the finer details that can ultimately sway a bigger game. And I will say that, I'm not trying to sound biased or homer when I say this, but there's a lot of ticky-tack calls that haven't been going both ways. It seems like a lot of them have been going against Notre Dame. And again, more of some ticky-tack stuff. And Notre Dame hasn't, had some of those penalties go their way. And while it hasn't ultimately mattered because they've handled their business, I just hope that we don't see a common pattern and it gets cleaned up against Ohio State. Because I think, again, in a close game with tightly matched teams, penalties are something that can alter a game.
Look, there's going to be penalties, right? But they've had about twice as many as they should have at this point. I mean, that's 18 is way too many, especially in 2 games. Way too many. Yeah. You can't give a team like Ohio State a fresh set of downs. If it's on 3rd down, you pass interfere or something like that, or you do something stupid like rough the quarterback, as he drops back. You cannot give a team like this a fresh set of downs. You cannot give them good field position because of stupid stuff like penalties. Can't do it.
I wasn't convinced that both of those roughing the passers were necessarily penalties last week, especially Burnham's. But, Mills, you do
Mills was
wonder.
Boneheaded. Mills was boneheaded.
You do wonder, again, like when we were just talking about the sacks, when you're not getting the sacks and you get that, it's like you're antsy to get that sack and you're that close and you just go ahead and, give him a little shove or whatever. You just have to be more aware.
You have to be smarter than that.
It feels like it's just a focus thing. And for a team that seems so disciplined and put together through the first 2 games, I think it's just really bizarre to see basically an average of 9 penalties a game these last 2 games.
Bad. It's bad. Yeah. I mean, I don't think this is an undisciplined team. I don't.
Right.
But you can't have these kinds of mistakes like this. Like we're not doing a Colorado State show. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
We're talking about those kinds of penalties, right? So I want to put it into perspective, but you can't have those kinds of penalties because a lot of them are, just situations where they got to be smarter. Like you just can't do that. You know what I mean?
Things.
You just can't, right? There's some stuff that you're just not going to be able to prevent. You're not, right?
I would say the only thing that I would add on is, you talked about those roughing the passer calls. It's just, you can't, as stupid as or ticky-tack as it might have been, and I'm sure Marcus Freeman talked to them about this week, you just can't put yourself in those circumstances. You can't give the refs the opportunity to make a 50-50 call. You just got to be disciplined and know when the quarterback lets go of that ball, just don't touch him. Nothing good is going to happen if you touch him after he throws the ball. And that's I know that's very specific, but that's going to go. There's going to be a lot of chirpiness, and you see a lot of 15-yard unnecessary this and that, and it's always the guy who responds second. That's the type of stuff that I think that has to be cleaned up, and you can't see happen this weekend. I don't think it's going to happen. But I think that's like where I would say that like the penalties would have to be cleaned up.
Should Notre Dame feel like an underdog in this game against the Buckeyes?
I mean, they are an underdog, obviously, if you're talking about Vegas. I don't know that I want my team, this particular Notre Dame team, I don't think I want them going in there feeling like an underdog. I want them to go out there and feel like they're going to whoop some A on that field, and that Ohio State doesn't belong on their field. That's the mentality I want from this Notre Dame team. I don't want them to have the oh man, we're the underdog, we're not getting any respect. Like I'm not a big fan of that particular mantra from coaches. The mantra I want is we're the better team. We're gonna kick your butt. You don't belong here. Have a nice flight or bus ride back to Columbus. Like that's what I want out of this Notre Dame team, not the underdog thing. I don't. Notre Dame's been the underdog in this game for far too long. It's a different mentality. It's a different thought process. That's what needs to happen. That's not who this team is. They're not an underdog. Don't play that role.
I agree. I think this is, I think Stuart Mandel from The Athletic said it earlier in the week. This is a very evenly matched game. I don't think that Notre Dame should feel like an underdog at all in this game. I think that I don't think there's any reason to believe that. I think, obviously if you ask all the people in the scarlet and the gray, they're going to tell you, well, of course Notre Dame is an underdog. We're going to go in there. We're going to run right over you, even though as close as the game was last year in Columbus with all the factors, that we talked about that worked in Ohio State's favor.
I honestly don't have a problem with that because they've owned Notre Dame. They have. I mean, from a win-loss standpoint, they've owned Notre Dame.
But when you look at the talent on both sides of the ball,
100%.
This is as close as they have been in a long time. Really, since those mid-90s games. This is as close to a talent standpoint as they've been.
You're 100% correct. And if you're looking at this from a neutral perspective, right, very even across the board. Notre Dame, I think, has an advantage at quarterback, all those different things, right? But if you're an Ohio State fan, why would you give Notre Dame any respect? I actually have no problem with it. They want to go out and chirp and do their thing. That's fine because Notre Dame hasn't proven that they belong on the same field as Ohio State yet. I mean, maybe I'm the jerk. I don't know. But until Notre Dame beats them, why shouldn't their fans feel cocky about this game?
Yeah, so I don't think Notre Dame should have an underdog mentality, but I think that they should kind of play with like that like hunger and aggressiveness of an underdog, or maybe someone that's a little bit disrespected, in some terms. And I don't think that means like they should come out and press too much. But at the same time, you don't want to feel like an underdog in your own home stadium. You're here to defend your turf. And it's like going to war and someone's coming over, in old Greek kind of terms of, they're coming to your place and initiating the war, and you're standing on your own ground defending your home. I think that's more so of the mentality that Notre Dame has to have, right? Like, I think it's like the underdog stuff is more like bulletin board.
That was my 300. That was my 300 there. Persian.
I think it's more of like that bulletin board material, right? Like stuff that can fire you up a little bit. But by no reason should they be playing as with like the underdog mentality. You got to stand your ground at home. You got to have the home toughness and everything like that.
Yeah, I just wouldn't play up the underdog thing in any way if I was Marcus Freeman. I wouldn't. I'd be like, look, you guys belong here. This is your game. This is who you are.
Yeah.
It's time for a new top dog in the Midwest.
And I mean, again, it was an 11-point game in Columbus last year
100%
with a first-time starting quarterback. I think that everyone on the roster who was there totally believes that they belonged on the same field with that team, and now they've got the quarterback advantage, and they've got some young guys who have again added to the talent depth pool on this team. There's every reason
advantage. I mean, I said it in my breakdown that's probably out on irishbreakdown.com at this point. I think Notre Dame's home field advantage is actually a legit thing in this particular game.
Really?
I do. Yeah, 100%. The atmosphere.
I'm going to be honest, Vince. I've never believed in home field advantage for Notre Dame because of the environment of the stadium.
Saturday night, when kickoff happens or when they run out of the tunnel, all that stuff, I want you outside of the press box, and I want you to listen to that stadium.
I'm not saying it's not going to be loud, Vince.
You tell me that's not a home field advantage.
It's
it
still
will be.
Notre Dame Stadium.
I'm telling you, the night games are different than any other game at Notre Dame Stadium.
I would agree with that. Everyone's lathered up a bit more. I do want to see.
Game was
I want to see what the effects of all this, keep the red out is going to be as well. Do they actually keep the red up? Because that can neutralize things very quick if they're 25
if Ohio State's playing well. If Ohio State's playing well. If Notre Dame goes out and plays well, those guys they don't exist.
Okay.
That's what you got to do. That's what you have to do.
But that's still an if. If it's a close game, then they're going to be in it.
But if it's a close game, both are going to be in it, and Notre Dame's going to have twice as many, so they drown them out.
I don't think that Notre Dame
They're going to have twice as many, Vince, but there's still going to be plenty of people who are going to be sitting on their hands out there.
I'm telling you, there will be a distinct home field advantage Saturday night.
No, there won't.
Okay. I'm telling you.
I'm sorry. I wish there was.
Did you leave the press box at all against Clemson? Were you outside at all, or were you just inside? Because it was a huge difference.
I honestly don't
being outside.
Just because it's loud doesn't make it a.
Then what's a home field advantage? Loud is a home field advantage. That's the whole point. So that they can't communicate
loud in comparison
offensively.
to what? Like stadiums where there actually are home field advantages.
So what is it? Define home field advantage.
You define home field advantage.
I just did.
Saying there is
super effing loud so that the offense can't communicate. That's a home field advantage.
Okay, then that won't be there Saturday night.
I highly disagree with you on that. Highly disagree. We'll see.
Jesse, you're Switzerland. Do you want to take a side on this?
I'm not
saying it's not going to be noisy.
That's the point. That's what home field advantage is.
Yeah, but what's the level, Vince? Like you make it sound like people come to Notre Dame and they get drowned out, and it's like so hard to communicate inside Notre Dame Stadium.
Deafening at the Clemson game on last year. Deafening outside. Deafening.
Okay.
That's an advantage to me.
Okay.
I think
it's more of an advantage if you're at home than you're on the road. I still don't buy Notre Dame as a true home field advantage. I think that they've had better night game atmospheres the last few years, but I just don't know if I buy it as a game-changing home field advantage. Jesse, you were about to say something.
I'm good.
You got nothing? Come on.
Prove me wrong. If you're listening, if you're watching, and you're going to the game, prove me wrong.
I think Notre Dame hasn't had a true home field advantage in the past. It's not a true home field advantage every single game, but I think when they play these night games, they do have a little bit more of an advantage, and that's where I would leave it, because I think at the 2:30, 3:30 games, the old people don't care, like you were saying.
Yes.
But when they do the night games and the start of the fourth quarter and they do the light show and people are, they're playing music and the fans are going nuts, like that stuff matters to me. And I think it's been more so, it's tilted the scale towards more so of a home field advantage than it has in the past. Day games, there is no home field advantage at Notre Dame Stadium. But when they introduce these night games and a little bit of people are they've been cooking, getting boozed up all day, more hours to get, those cocktails in them, and the game starts. I think there is a bit more of a home field advantage only in the night games, though.
Agreed.
Only in the night games.
I completely agree. And part of that is because they're playing a better opponent.
Right? And it's strategic when the night games are.
100%. But I think the night game atmosphere has been.
If they were playing this game at 2:30 on Saturday, I would say that it would be in the middle. There would be no home field advantage.
That I agree with. And I wouldn't have said that it was a home field advantage if this game was at 2:30. I completely agree with that. Completely.
I did my best, Switzerland.
The blue hairs are going to be in bed.
That's what I mean. The people that truly want to be there and are invested are going to show up for the night game. They don't care how long it goes for. They're screaming the entire time. They're going to be standing majority of the time because it's going to be a close game.
Let them stand, baby.
Every possession is going to matter, and I think it's going to be. And I think the other part of this is it's Marcus Freeman. He's brought a different kind of energy to this team and to this fans, and I hope the fans reciprocate that.
You're on fire, Jesse. You're on fire. You get 2 bells.
My best bell yet.
And not that those wristbands are gonna make a difference in home field a bit, but I do want to see like what the whole thing looks like and the atmosphere. Yeah. I don't disagree that
the wristbands are cool.
And I said this earlier this week that they've done a much better job the last few years with these night game productions. With what they've done, they do pump in the sound a little. They've got like microphones down there by the band and stuff like that to amplify it a little bit. No problem with, obviously you can't play that, like while the other team is trying to snap the ball and those kind of things. So we'll see. Notre Dame State. I mean, it does seem like since they've reconfigured the stadium and you've got, multiple press boxes and the video board and stuff like that, it does seem like the sound kind of does get trapped inside a little bit more than it used to as well, especially if people are actually making more noise.
Yes.
But I mean, come on, hashtag let them stand, right?
It was really cool with I'll say, I just want to get this in, but I went to a Browns game last year on Halloween against the Bengals and they had those wristbands. I actually have it still with me right here. It's on my desk. Actually, the light is drowning it out here a little bit. Yeah.
Did you wear the wristband?
And so and they're controlling it, and so they'll control when how it's synced up, and and when it's cold, or sorry, not cold, but when it's dark out, and it's going to be a green out. So I imagine these things are going to be flashing green the entire time. Like it looks pretty sweet, and I think I'm going to be really jealous that you guys are there because I know
they better give us one.
I know it sounds kind of tacky, but like it's cool when they're
not going to. I thought about that. They don't want those things flashing in the press box.
I'm going to be pissed if there's not one at my spot. I'm really not. I'm seriously going to be pissed. Really. I might have to get there early and just go into the stadium.
What happens if they do and that thing starts flashing, like
I no comment. I was going to say something probably get me canceled.
So this is the 37th time Notre Dame Stadium will host a matchup when both teams are ranked in the AP top 10. The Irish are 23-12-1 all time in those contests, 11-9 as the lower ranked team, like they are in this game. This is also the 5th consecutive time Notre Dame and Ohio State are going to meet as top 10 opponents. I think that includes last year in Columbus. So interesting there. And this is just the 5th time in the 2000s Notre Dame Stadium has hosted 2 top 10 teams going head to head. I forgot Cincinnati was already in the top 10 when they played 2 years ago. That was the last one. 2020, Clemson, 2018, Stanford. And of course, Stanford fell like way off. That was like the beginning of the end for Stanford in 2018. And then
it was
the Bush Push game in 2005. So those were the previous 4 games. So you've got 5th-year head coach Ryan Day, 48-6 overall. He has lost to Michigan, of course, the last couple of years, and that's got fans rankled up. But last year's team went to the college football playoff, and it's interesting. There really hasn't been, I mean, not that we would have expected that there would be. There hasn't been, like a lot of smack talk or anything like that this week. Here's the closest thing. You guys didn't know this one was coming. I just found this today. Closest thing to maybe any smack talk coming, Ryan Day from his press conference earlier this week. Listen to this.
Ooh.
What's going to come in this game, how it's going to shake out, what the back and forth is going to be. And, the ultimate goal is to win the game. That's it, and that's what we'll do in this one.
That's what we'll do.
He didn't look very confident when he said that.
He really didn't.
I think it's just something that he has to say,
I get that.
I don't think it was any smack talk or anything like that.
Yeah, nothing. I'm not saying smack, nothing inflammatory, but he said,
"We're gonna win.
We're gonna win." I mean, it's no different. I mean, it's not Brian Kelly, I guess, saying we're going to kick Florida State's butt or whatever. But
look, on Tuesday, I was at an all-day training on how to read body language and know when somebody is not being truthful. Okay, that man was not being truthful in that cut. He's looking down at the ground.
Hang on. Let's see this. Break it down. Break it down as he does this. It's like give us our tells here.
I get this, man, right back.
It's going to come in this game, how it's going to shake out, what the back and forth is going to be.
He's looking down at his shoes. He's shrugging his
the ultimate goal
shoulders.
is to win
No
the
eye
game.
contact.
That's it,
and
that's
he's
what we'll do in
slumped.
this one.
You know what I mean? When you're slumped and you're still like that, it's not good.
I don't think there's a tremendous amount of confidence in what he's saying.
Yeah, that's what I agree. He's
just saying blanket statements.
Yep. He's saying what is expected of him to say, which I don't have a problem with, by the way.
No, again, I don't either. But like I said, that is
language,
the closest thing to like any,
He will be the least surprised when they walk out of Notre Dame Stadium Saturday night with a loss.
So Cal McCord's completing around 69% of his passes, shade under 70%, 815 yards, 6 touchdown passes, 3 to Marvin Harrison Jr., 3 to Emeka Egbuka. The tight end, Cade Stover, is having a pretty good season as well.
Yeah.
Their tight end is averaging 18.8 yards per catch. He is making some big chunk plays. Harrison is averaging 21.7 and Egbuka just under 14 yards per catch. What is the confidence you guys have in Notre Dame's secondary in this matchup?
Go ahead, Jess.
Yeah, so I would say in terms of the way I want to look at this is not looking at what they've done so far this year. Like that's a part of the formula. But again, you got to look at who they're playing. Navy, not a passing team. Tennessee State, yeah, they had some athletes, but it's an FCS team. NC State, Brendan Armstrong, everyone knows that he wants to use his legs, right? And the passing game was kind of the more complementary part that comes off of, him being able to use his legs. So, and then you go to Central Michigan, and who didn't even have, they went with their second string quarterback because the first string guy was sick. So to me, it's like the secondary was truly, truly tested by NC State, and that's a mid-level college football quarterback, right? And so I guess what I'm saying is the secondary hasn't been ultimately tested, and now they're going to probably their biggest test of the year with the wide receiver room that Notre Dame has. So I have a ton of confidence in Notre Dame secondary because of what they did last year, the depth that they showed this year, and guys stepping up at the safety position and them being deep in nickel as well. Like there's no flaw if you look at them across the board, right? Like everyone is solid. And guys have stepped up in the secondary this year too. So I'm not overly concerned with the secondary because I think as a defensive unit, they'll be solid. And the defensive line, other things will do stuff to help out the secondary in defending these stud wide receivers.
I would say that, you said across the board, they're solid. They're solid to great, depending on which kid you're talking about. Right.
Right.
And my confidence level is fairly high. Now, this is all under the caveat that Ohio State has the best wide receiver room in the country. Right. And there's no debate. Like nobody is debating that. That is a fact, right? That's like if you're in court, like this is something that everybody has agreed on, and we don't need to ask witnesses about it. Like this is in the books, right? If they underestimate Notre Dame's secondary, Ohio State's going to lose. Like that, they don't underestimate these guys. Like my confidence level is fairly high.
I think the fan base from Ohio State is underestimating. I don't think the Ohio State coaching staff is underestimating.
I agree with that completely. And Jesse's right. They have not been like seriously tested as of yet, and this is going to be their biggest test, obviously, to date, maybe for the whole year, because then when they play USC, it's going to be kind of a flip-flop, right? There's going to be the great quarterback throwing to pretty good receivers, right? But the quarterback makes the receivers better. So, like, what does that look like? This one is the great receivers with the game-managing quarterback at this point in his career, as you had mentioned earlier. So it's a little bit of a flip-flop. But I got a lot of confidence in the secondary, but they're going to be tested. But I think this is going to be that particular matchup is going to be like a heavyweight bout. Like you're going to see blow, and then you're going to see somebody come back and counter with another blow. And then, Ohio State's going to get theirs. Watch out for Notre Dame to get theirs, man.
Can't be discouraged if they give up a big play here and there. Absolutely. It's going to happen. They're going to give up some some moderate to big plays against Ohio State. They're going to catch the ball.
Short
they
memories,
got dudes.
man.
They got dudes who are going to be elite NFL wide receivers. It's going to happen.
Yep. Short. You got to have a short memory in this game. You have to.
They haven't, they haven't like just had blown coverages and those kind of things
Agreed.
this year. It's been pretty on point. The times when opposing teams have hit some pass plays, it seems like the majority of them have come with what we were talking about earlier, when now you're blitzing and you're not getting home with those blitzes and you're leaving everyone out there in man-to-man. And that's when, some of the bigger plays, I think, have come for the opposition.
And I will also say, on the flip side, if you've watched any Ohio State, highlights or game film or whatever, Kyle McCord's throwing to some pretty wide open receivers.
That's what I mean, Vince.
Well,
like,
that's
those plays to Harrison. It's like, what are you doing in coverage?
And that's always been the knock on these Ohio State quarterbacks is how good are they really when the receivers are that good and they are throwing to guys who are wide open.
Well, and
I don't think that's going to be the case.
Exactly.
They're going to hit some plays, like you guys said, but I just feel like we've seen so many of these Notre Dame Ohio State games in the past, and Notre Dame did a pretty good job defending them last year. Harrison and Egbuka still combined for like 140, 150 yards or whatever it was, and Egbuka had the touchdown. But again, look at the point total. They scored 21 points. It was within reason. They managed them basically. I just feel like compared to any of these matchups we have seen Notre Dame against Ohio State, against the Alabamas and Clemsons of the world, when all of those programs had NFL receivers, like going back to the college football playoff against Clemson, obviously going back to, Alabama in the championship game and in the playoff when, again, all those NFL caliber receivers. Notre Dame is as good in the secondary and is as prepared for a matchup like this in their secondary as they have been, I think, in 30 or so years. You have to go, again, like back to those Holt Sarah teams of the early 90s. That's how long it's been, I think, since Notre Dame has had a secondary that can go toe-to-toe with a receiving core like this.
Yep. Completely agree. I mean, they stack up really, really well. And, I mean,
what game this actually reminds me of the most is the Notre Dame and Oklahoma game at Oklahoma. Notre Dame had a really solid defense. Oklahoma had a good amount of offensive weapons, and it was just blow after blow. And I think that is the game that really comes to mind when thinking about this Ohio State game.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty fair comparison. And that was really still kind of a grinder through the third quarter.
And I think that's how it's going to go.
Till Notre Dame wore on them and kind of pulled away late, and Manti came up with another interception and all that kind of stuff. So, Jesse, you did your whiteboard earlier this week. You showed some specific ways you think Notre Dame is going to have to defend Ohio State, specifically Marvin Harrison Jr. Do you want to explain it? Do you want to throw something what's the general concept of how you think Marvin Harrison Jr. needs to be accounted for?
Yeah, I'll be short and brief with this one. I think mainly Ohio State loves to get in trips looks, right? Like that's a lot of meat and potatoes of what they're going to do. And obviously they're not going to line up in trips every time. But when they line up in trips, Marvin Harrison is going to be in one of two places. He's either going to be to the field side like the field wide receiver, right? Like maybe he's the lone guy on the single side, or maybe he's the wide receiver if we're talking the trip side, he's the one displaced closest to the sideline, right? And so, and then the last scenario is he's going to be in the slot. And I think those are the two big things. Is he in the slot or is he not in the slot? And I think when he's in the slot, there's going to be a different kind of coverage depending. And if he's not in the slot, there's going to be a different kind of coverage. And I think ultimately the entire secondary and what they're going to do coverage wise is going to be dictated about where Marvin Harrison is lined up on the field, because if he's in the slot or if he's split out more wide, it means a different way of how they're trying to attack you or use Marvin Harrison Jr. Against you. But I think what ultimately it's going to be is there can't be any free releases that Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have. And so whether or not he's in the slot or if he's not in the slot, there needs to be someone within 5 yards of him checking him immediately. And I said this on Tuesday, it's a lot of match, carry, and deliver. if Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to leave your zone, you need to match him. You need to carry him to the next and then deliver him to the next defender. There needs to be basically 2 people accounting for Marvin Harrison Jr. every sort of play. So you're basically running man underneath. And then if he's in the slot, you're looking at more of like a cover 2 look. And then if he's out on the perimeters, I would say you'd be more so looking at a cover 4 look. But again, the entire time, there's got to be someone within 5 yards, no matter where he's out in the field, jamming him up. No free releases. Because like Vince, you saw it. And he just got free releases on all these guys, right?
And he's just running past people.
He's just running past people. Yeah. How does that make sense? There's got to be someone on him.
Because they're so afraid. They're so afraid that he's going to run past them if they're up close. But he's running past them when they're 10 yards deep too. Right. So you have to
be physical.
Make him work for everything. I agree with that completely.
Yeah. There seems to be a growing consensus that it's going to be Benjamin Morrison matched up all night with Marvin Harrison Jr. Do you agree with that? That doesn't, like, Notre Dame doesn't do that.
Right, exactly.
Typically. Especially when you're talking about a guy who's going to play in the slot or outside. I don't see that.
I don't see that either. I think Notre Dame's just going to play their defense because I think that they are very confident in both Cam Hart and Benjamin Morrison. And if they're going to put him in the slot, they're confident in Harper and what he can do because he has proven that he can be just as physical on the inside as those guys can be on the outside. So I don't think that they change up their defense, from a positional standpoint, field, and boundary and all that. I don't think they're going to follow him around. I really don't. I think they want to throw as many bullets at him as they possibly can. Hey,
keep fresh legs on him.
Here's this All-American. Here's this potential All-American. Here's the, I think they're just going to just throw as much as they can at him.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's going to be a lot of different guys and a lot of different looks. I do agree that he has to be accounted for on every play, though.
Oh, they have to know where he is always.
Yeah. Oh, and I think he's going to. I guess what I was mainly getting at is he's going to dictate coverage no matter what. Like, Notre Dame is setting their secondary based off of where he is at on the field. That's the main thing I was getting at. And then again, that there's no free release. He's jammed off the line of scrimmage, and if he's going to leave that defender's zone or area, he's got to be, again, matched, carried, and delivered to the next guy. Delivered to the next guy is the big part.
Ohio State's offensive line, probably their biggest question mark that they have, bigger than Cal McCord, I think, so far, even though, again, he hasn't lit the world up, but offensive line has been up and down. They lost 3 starters from last year's team. Can Notre Dame capitalize in this matchup?
They have to. I mean, can they? Yes.
Well, I know they have to, but can they?
Yeah, I think they can. They're deep, right? They don't necessarily have the marquee name guys, right? But I think they have depth, and I think that they have talent. Look, Howard Cross has played some pretty darn good football so far this year.
He has.
He needs to continue that, right? I think Riley Mills has played some good football. He needs to continue that. I would love to see Jean-Baptiste, get all fired up because he's playing his old team, make some plays.
Jean-Baptiste has played well so far.
100%.
Jason Onyé has played well so far.
And you're getting Gabriel Rubio back, which is huge. And so I think they're just going to throw wave after wave after wave. And I think, can they? Yes. But that is going to be one of the things that's going to make or break this game.
Yes.
Is
absolutely.
Both lines, trenches. And I know that's the next question, so I'm going to stop talking.
Well, just go right to it if you want. Do you guys both agree that this game comes down to what happens down in the lines, both sides of the ball?
I do.
Is that the key to this thing?
That whoever can control the line of scrimmage.
Ooh, Jesse is saying no.
That's 100%.
So are you going with Harrison then, Jess, or what are you going with?
You can finish, Vince.
Thank you. So Notre Dame has to be able to run the ball, and they got to be able to pass protect. That's the offensive side. They've got to be able to do both. And if you're not controlling the line of scrimmage, that's never going to happen. Defensively, they've got to make Kyle McCord uncomfortable. You got to make him uncomfortable. The defensive line is going to have to do that because I don't want to send, as Jesse said earlier, 6 guys and take guys out of coverage and all of that. They got to be able to get it with 3, 4, 5 every time, right? And so you have to control the line of scrimmage. If you lose those battles up front, you lose the game, period.
To me, it comes down to 2 things. 1, quarterback play. what Sam Hartman's game looks like compared to Kyle McCord. It doesn't need to be better. It needs to be a step up better. I would say like a level better. You know what I mean? And then to me, it comes down to the secondary and Ohio State's wide receivers. I think the thing to me is like the trenches are a valuable aspect kind of every game, right? Like you want to, and I know that's like, yeah, kind of a crappy answer, but I think there's more of an emphasis on what Sam Hartman does and how the secondary responds to maybe giving up a big play here or there, maybe giving a big catch here and there, and then being able to be mentally tough to shut it down and maybe just instead of giving up the touchdown after a big play, holding it down and getting a field goal or something like that. So to me, it's, again, quarterback play and how the secondary does against these wide receivers.
See, but that's why I think, especially from Notre Dame's defensive perspective, both teams want to run the ball. Ohio State needs to run the ball more because going back to what we talked about earlier, you can put the game on Sam Hartman's shoulders.
That's a good point.
You can't put the game on Cal McCord's shoulders in this game. Notre Dame needs to slow. He wants to rely on play action and take shots downfield. And Notre Dame needs to be able to win on first and second down to put him into more disadvantageous situations. He needs to be in second and third and long most of the night for Notre Dame to truly have success, I think, defensively. And obviously, you want to disrupt him and you want to get all those different things, but it starts with what happens up front, slowing down Travion Henderson and that running game and putting McCord, again, in more disadvantageous situations, because all those things that you're talking about, Jess, in the passing game, also being able to run the football. If they're not able to run the football, then that's gonna hurt McCord a heck of a lot more than if Ohio State limits Audric Estime and company. Because again, I believe that you can put the game on Hartman's shoulders if you have to.
But you got to protect him. Him.
Obviously.
That play action stuff, that takes a while.
But that's the thing too. Like talking to Chase Brown, the Ohio State insider that I had on just the other day, like he was saying, like he feels like this offensive line that Ohio State has is a decent pass blocking team, but not a good run blocking.
Oh yeah, and that's I pointed out on Tuesday when watching film against Ohio State, when they bring in that tight end or H-back, whatever you want to call them, kind of how Mitchell Evans and Holden Stays are used, it's not 100% that they're going to run the ball, but they bring him in there because it's an extra run blocker, and they can't run block without him. It's an extra body within the box, and so when they bring that guy in there, it's more of a thing of they can't get it done with just their 5 straight offensive linemen, and they need that extra guy in there to try to have some sort of running game.
Right, I agree. All right, guys.
Vince,
do it.
Are you ready for rapid fire?
Woo! Let's go.
Fill in the blank. A win over Ohio State would mean blank for Marcus Freeman.
A win against Ohio State would mean a program-altering win for Marcus Freeman. I know what he did last year against Clemson. That's fine, but it's time to do it against Ohio State. It's time to do it at home. It's time to do it against a team that is, it has the reputation and the history of someone like Ohio State. So I think this is something that is literally a program-altering type of win because it can propel you to a national championship. It can propel you to steal some of those recruits from Ohio State. Like there's so many implications on this game for Marcus Freeman.
There's really not a better answer than what Jesse just said, but it would mean, it would mean that this is the biggest win at Notre Dame Stadium in the last 2 decades. Years. I mean, yeah. I mean, it would be bigger than any other regular season win. I think because of the implications that Jesse just talked about, recruiting, the Midwest, the fact that you had. What year were you born, Jesse?
96.
They haven't won since Jesse's been alive. They haven't beaten Ohio State in that amount of time. So
they haven't beaten Ohio State since you and I have been alive either.
That was 95.
1936. They lost in both 95 and 96.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. I thought they won in 95. That's my fault then.
No.
Okay. So there you go. Like this is the biggest win for Notre Dame in the regular season since I can remember if they win this game. So it'd be a hats off to Marcus Freeman if he can make that happen, because the last guy was here for over a decade. He couldn't do it, and name the coaches behind him that couldn't do it. So it would be huge. It would be massive.
And the guy before him made every excuse for why it couldn't happen.
Well,
and Marcus Freeman has taken all of those excuses and said, those aren't excuses, and I'm going to shove them down your throat.
It's the start of the true ascension, I think.
Yes.
You know, I think we kind of thought maybe beating Clemson last year was it, but for all the reasons that you talked about, like this is right now, Ohio State is the program of the Midwest for at least the last 15,
and that's the key,
maybe even 20 years. Yeah.
That's the key.
Michigan's coming on or whatever, you know, since they've, you know, whatever. But Ohio State is still it for the way they recruit year in and year out and the way they've won year in and year out. And for all the reasons that Jesse said, to get a win against that program in your building and for all the other implications that come with it, recruiting is already in a good place. I think it's the tipping point, and we are going to see the start of the true ascension. And for any people who aren't won over, like Notre Dame people who aren't won over on Marcus Freeman at this point, he wins this game. Again, I think that it's like you've got yourself the crowd.
There won't be a lot of room on the bandwagon at that point. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like it would be, like Jesse said, program changing. It just would be, you know, because rarely does Notre Dame go up against Ohio State. I mean, up against a Clemson or an Alabama. They do, right, for the higher upper echelon. But man, they go toe to toe with Ohio State with almost every guy that they go after on the recruiting trail, man. And to be able to have this win in their back pocket would be massive. Massive.
Fill in the blank. Notre Dame, Ohio State is Notre Dame's biggest game since blank.
2005 USC. I mean, that's okay. Let me take it back.
Let's go home game because we did this differently the other day.
Biggest home game. And that's why I was going to take it back. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just throw out all those playoff games. Let's go home game. Yeah.
Because those are, and even honestly, you could even just say regular season game. I still think this is the biggest one since 2005. USC.
I weighed a couple games in here. The opening game against Michigan, but that's, again, it's the opening game, so it doesn't have as many implications. And that Michigan team.
Well, you can argue that the opening game does have implications because you lose right away, then you're behind the 8 ball right away.
Right. And I don't see last year, you know, the Clemson games of the last few years as being up there. So I just think in terms of both teams having a lot of, you know, implications, like this game is going to drastically change one of these teams' seasons, I believe. And just how good both of these teams are, you know, 2 top 10 teams at home for Notre Dame. And again, just the excitement that's around the team that hasn't been around. And since I can remember, I would have to say the Bush Push game as well, 2005 against USC at home. And Notre Dame, again, was a slight underdog, but knew that it was going to be a dogfight, right? Like it was going to be a dogfight of a game. And again, 2 really talented teams. So yeah, I have to agree. The 2005 USC game.
When you talk about the hype and the hoopla, I've got to go back to that 2005 game because like Stanford 2012, that was a home game, you know, the goal line stand and all that.
That was a big one.
It was a big one, and that was one of the games that game day was here. But again, it was Stanford.
It didn't have the hype.
Yeah, it didn't quite have the same, you know. And again, if we're going home games, it's one of those 2, and it probably is USC just because it was USC and they're the defending champs and all that stuff, and you know the Bush, just the whole thing.
Right.
You know, just regular season period. Again, I think you kind of go back to that Oklahoma game that we were talking about, especially because they won. And that's the thing too. When you know, like you're mentioning USC, and again, hype,
they lost.
Ookla, it came right down to the wire. All that they did lose. That's like the outlier, like the 1% that you still, you know, go back and like, man, that was a hell of a game, even though they lost. It's typically the games that you win that you say,
for sure,
you know, were important down the line. The ones that they lose, you disregard, and it's like, oh, they lost, move on. So I'd have to say, just boil it down. 2005 push game.
If they can win this game, right? If they win this game Saturday night, I think this vaults to the very top of the list for regular season games. It would be right behind playoff and national championship participation because they didn't win those games.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be the absolute top of the list in my lifetime. Well, no, I shouldn't say that because I think the 93 Florida State game, that's the next speed bump.
93 Florida State, 88 Miami, those two games.
Right.
And then, there were some Michigan games in there as well, like when they were playing Michigan every year. And that's, I still remember that when they were starting off the season every year against Michigan. And again, it's like your season was going to be defined by what you did in those Michigan games because typically both of them were top 10 type programs.
I feel like if they can win this game though, Sean, and depending on the manner in which they do it, people are going to be talking about this game like they did the 93 Florida State game. I do.
Well, especially if it comes down to the wire, like those games.
Right. Because that's part of it, right? I mean, there was the hoopla surrounding the game going into it because a game day was there for the first time and, all of that. And that's all accurate. But if they can win this game, the extra implications because look, Notre Dame wasn't really competing against Florida State for guys. You know what I mean? Now they do, but like, Ohio State's just different, man. I mean, just because of the proximity and all of that. So this would be massive. It would be massive.
Scale of 1 to 10. How much more confident are you in Notre Dame for this game in comparison to last year's game in Columbus?
I'm a solid 8 out of 10 more confident in this game last year. I think it's a better defense. It's a better running game. It's a second-year defensive coordinator. It's a second-year head coach. You add one of the best college football quarterbacks, all time in that mix and his experience. That's just like confidence boost. Like I feel great about those things. And the cherry on top is that it's at home. It's a night game, and it's going to be an environment in there. So I am an 8 out of 10 more confident this season.
I'm like a 9 out of 10 more confident than I was last season. So like I don't remember what I predicted last year.
An Ohio State loss.
But I probably did. But like I went into that game thinking, okay, Notre Dame's got some talent. I think they can surprise some people. I think they can do some things here. But at the end of the day, I thought Notre Dame was going to lose. I was so mad when that game was over the way Notre Dame lost that game because I felt like they had control and they should have won. And I think I was even more upset because going into it, I didn't think that was going to be the case. You know what I mean? Like I thought they would compete. I thought they would play, well, and they didn't play really well. But Ohio State didn't play well either. And a lot of that had to do with the way Notre Dame played against them, right? And I was just so mad that Notre Dame let that slip through their fingers. Like, that's why I got so upset at the end of that game. Not because Notre Dame played or well or didn't play well or whatever. It's like they let this one slip away, a game that they probably shouldn't have won in the first place.
Yeah, I'm at a 9 as well because I know I didn't pick Notre Dame to win last year. I thought that probably the best that they were hoping for was to do what they did, and that's play close. And I mean, just even the comments that Marcus Freeman made this week, he was saying the same thing with the first-time starting quarterback. They were trying to control the clock as much as possible, kind of playing not to lose a little bit rather than necessarily playing to win. They got it into the fourth quarter. It was a game going into the fourth quarter, but obviously the offense couldn't do enough to help them out. Now you've got much more complimentary football. And again, it comes down to the difference in the quarterback, the whole difference in the quarterback situation. You had the number 2 overall draft pick playing for Ohio State last year and a first-time starter, Tyler Buckner for Notre Dame. Look at the whole situation in Alabama that he's in right now. And now you've got Sam Hartman versus a guy making his 5th career start. So I'm a ton more confident. And at a very minimum, I think it's going to be a great game Saturday night.
Yes. Hoping, actually.
That's the minimum. I do think Notre Dame has a really good chance to win this game. Do you buy or sell these two teams playing more often?
This is an interesting concept because is this game bigger because they don't play very often? You know what I mean? Like, would this game have the hype around it if they played every other year or whatever? I don't know that it would. Maybe it would. because Notre Dame would have had more chances at beating them. And if they still hadn't beaten them, then maybe that, adds to the drama or whatever. I would be good with a home and away like every 4 or 5 years, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want to play them every year. I think that would get stale. But I think every 4 or 5 years, like, so every kid really gets an opportunity to play Ohio State at some point in their Notre Dame career, right? I think I would be cool with that.
Jess?
Yeah, I would like a rotating schedule of Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and Wisconsin. And so how you intertwine those, 4 teams, throughout the schedule, I think you can play at least one of those teams, every you could do a home and home with one of those 4 teams every about 4 years, I guess is what I would say. And I'd kind of keep rotating or cycling through those teams just because I think those are some of the other big known football programs within the region of Notre Dame. So I don't see it as like a something that needs to be every year and, potentially like a rivalry or anything, but I like rotating through them and a team like, Penn State, Michigan, and Wisconsin.
Yeah. Wisconsin, I don't know about, but they like the other 2, I'd be on board with that. It's going to be really interesting because this whole new TV contract that, NBC with the Big Ten and the primetime games. And I mean, just look at what's happening with the announcers for this game. It's got a lot of people happy. The fact that because of that NBC deal, you've got a different announcing crew with Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge calling the game. And I guess Jack Collinsworth and Jason Garrett are up at Michigan. It's like Maryland, Michigan State, maybe, or something like that. They're doing
enjoy that one.
The afternoon game. So
it's where they belong, though. Lower echelon Big Ten games. Like, that's where they should be cutting their teeth, not Notre Dame.
Yeah, exactly. But I agree with kind of what you guys are both saying. I don't want to see it every year, but a good rotation I think would be good. But, kind of my point with the NBC deal was we heard when NBC got that deal with the Big Ten and Notre Dame trying to keep its contract with NBC going forward, that maybe you would see more Big Ten teams on Notre Dame's schedule. So I would not be surprised, especially, it's just like, look at the opportunity that NBC has. And again, if Notre Dame is playing home and homes with these higher profile Big Ten schools, USC is going to be one of them, obviously. But if Notre Dame is playing these games, NBC can televise Notre Dame both at home and on the road when they're doing these things in this primetime package. So I think it makes a lot of sense to, not just Ohio State, but like Jesse said, Michigan in there and Penn State and some of these others. And again, you're already going to have USC in part of that mix.
Have you heard how they're going to brand this game? Is it Notre Dame football or is it the Big Ten game of the week?
I'll be really curious to see what
I was just curious.
That looks like.
Because you kind of know that stuff when I don't know it, so I didn't know if you had heard anything about that.
That's something I haven't, it's like we've known about, because there are some people who I've seen on our boards talking about, well, NBC must have heard the complaints about Jack Collinsworth, and that's why they're doing this.
Didn't.
This has been known since the middle of summer.
Yeah.
Like what their announcer schedule is going to be, I guess. So it has nothing to do with that. Yeah.
They could care less.
But they have all these announcers now because of all these games that they're doing for the Big Ten. But no, I will be curious to see if it is still Notre Dame football on NBC.
Right, exactly. Or is it the Big Ten game of the week? Yeah.
And if you're Notre Dame, how do you feel about that?
I was just going to say,
if it does end up being branded as a Big Ten primetime game,
so mad if they come on as the Big Ten game of the week.
I know.
For something that doesn't even matter.
Set.
Yeah. For something that doesn't even matter, to be honest with you, it will send fans in the pregame off the ledge.
I know.
Like, just off the ledge. So the boards are going to be hilarious. Let's just put it that way.
Oh man. So for this game Saturday night, Notre Dame's doing its best to keep the stadium green. It's a wear green game. The team's wearing all green. We haven't even talked about that. All green uniforms, and you're going to have all the the LED bracelets that we talked about, and fans are asked to wear green and everything. How much red though do you think we're going to see Saturday?
I'm giving the red about a 15 to 20% area. I think that it'll be. I don't think it. I don't think it'll get close to like a 25%, like a quarter of the stadium. I don't think you'll see a quarter of the stadium be red. I think it'll be more so like an eighth of the stadium that you might see red. So I'm sticking with the solid 15 to 20%. And I have nothing to back that up. It's just a gut feeling.
Well, obviously, I don't have anything to back it up either, but I'm going to go 30%. I think that there's going to be a decent chunk. Now, that also means there's 70% green, but I think there's going to be like 30% red. I think it's going to be more than I'm comfortable with. But I was on a show with Brian, and he said he thinks it's going to be 50-50. I was like, I just don't see that
it's
being
not going to
the
be
case.
I don't think it'll get that. I don't think it'll get that high.
I don't think so either. But
I think I'm in the 25%-ish range. So that's
I hope I'm wrong, man.
Maybe
a
little over 17 to 20,000, I guess,
is
what I'm thinking.
I hope I'm wrong.
I don't think it'll be 50-50. I think that these measures that Notre Dame has gone to, I think they're going to have at least some effect. But at the same time, as I've said, like, you still don't know what that secondary ticket market is going to do.
And it's excuse me, it's hard to turn down. You know, if someone's selling those tickets, it's hard to turn down a $5,000 payday. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Vince, I know you would want 5K.
The thing with the red is it's obviously, so much more identifiable.
Oh, it's just a putrid color, and it's just so obvious that it's there, and it's just like,
yeah.
I'm just not a red fan. I've just never been a red fan. Yeah, I don't know why.
It explains it why you hated your days with the Adams Eagles.
Should have been blue.
All right, let's go to some game props. Did everybody build a 3-leg same game parlay for this game?
This is so hard because I have zero faith. I have zero faith in like betting on anything in this game. That's the problem. But I did put one together.
Let's hear it. You start us off, Vince.
All right, I got you. So the over-under is set at 55.5. I went back and I checked my score, and my score is 52. So I'm going to take the under there. Okay, so that's number one. Marvin Harrison Jr., look, you can't keep a good man down. I do think he's going to get his. I hope that it doesn't affect the game in a super negative way for Notre Dame, but I do think he's going to get his yards. He just is, right? Because they're going to force the ball to him. So I think 88.5 is the number that we have for receiving. I'm going to take the over. Okay. And then the last one I'm going to take is Sam Hartman and touchdown passes set at 1.5. I'm going to take the over there as well. So under 55.5, over on the receiving yards for Marvin Harrison Jr. at 88.5, over 1.5 touchdown passes for my boy Sammy Hartman.
I like that, Vince. I have I stole one of your legs there. So I'll start with that. I have Hartman with the 2+ touchdowns. I have Audric Estime anytime touchdown, and I have Audric Estime for 70+ yards as my 3-leg parlay.
The only one I'm worried about there is Estime. I don't know. Is how is Ohio State going to play this thing? Are they going to sell out for the run and just try to stuff Notre Dame, make them throw the ball because that's what's beaten Notre Dame in the past? How much faith do they have?
But again, Notre Dame hasn't had Sam Hartman.
I agree. No, I'm with you. But like when you're looking at this team, when you're looking at Notre Dame, it's like they're not going to be able to throw the ball.
In this defense, the 4-2-5 defense run by Knowles, those guys are little boys to Audric Estime. He is going to run those linebackers over. It is going to be a long day for Ohio State linebackers.
I hope you're right, and I hope they load the box personally and let Sam Hartman do.
I think it's going to be a pick your poison, Matt.
I don't think they're that foolish. I don't think that they would do that, but
we'll see.
I've been wrong before.
Who knows? I don't know. That's the thing. That's why this game is so hard. The game of the parlays, right? That's why this game is so hard because you just don't know how this is going to play out.
I know. Jesse, what's my parlay? I sent it to you. My phone is charging in the other room, so I can't look at it. I know.
Yeah, you sent me
I've got
too.
Hartman. I've got Hartman over the 1.5 touchdowns. I know that's one of them.
We all got that one. That's good. I like that.
What else do I have, Jesse?
You sent me 2, and you said I'm not excited about the first one, and then sent me the second one. And the one that you said you're not excited about had the Hartman 1.5 touchdowns in it. So
Well, just read them both then. I did.
Let's
I
go,
did
baby.
2 of them. I bet
Let's
2
go.
of them. So what did I bet?
So on the first one, you did Hartman over 1.5 touchdowns, Sam Hartman 250 yards, and Notre Dame to cover a +3 spread.
Okay.
That was your first one. I think your second one is better.
So do
just
I.
like you indicated. Osdrick estimates 70+ yards. Sam Hartman 275+ yards. So you went over the over.
alternate.
I went alternate to get a little bit more juice on it. Yep.
And then you did Jaden Greathouse anytime touchdown for +1,500 odds for that 3-leg parlay.
Wow.
And I didn't bet a lot on it, but I got really good odds.
Well, plus 1,500. You don't have to. That's the fun part.
So I got to sneak this in here real quick. There's a game special for Sam Hartman to throw a passing touchdown in the first half and the second half. That is my favorite bet of the weekend, and that's +200.
Good odds
To
on
just
that.
throw a passing touchdown in the first and throw a passing touchdown in the second half.
But does he have to do it with his left hand? Because you went both.
But that covers our over that all of us took for passing and Sam Hartman touchdowns too.
It's true.
That's true.
That's a good point.
So,
all right. So FanDuel also has Kyle McCord over under 269.5 yards and 1.5 touchdown passes.
That's a lot of yards, I feel like.
I'm under on his yards. I think he'll get
Yes.
the touchdown passes.
Yes,
I'm under
I
on his
agree.
yards, though.
I'm in the same exact boat. I think he might back into a few touchdowns because he's got some hella receivers, but I think Notre Dame holds him under that number.
I agree, and I think they need to if they're going to win. And kind of leads into some stuff later.
I think it's a jip that for these individual props, Jaden Thomas is the only Notre Dame receiver who they put any game
lines
props
out for
on. Yeah.
It's
Jaden
weak.
Thomas has over under 51.
You're cowards, FanDuel.
They are total cowards. 51.5. And if I'm betting, I'm probably not going to, I would not touch it.
I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
But I would lean toward under just because
Sure.
that just hasn't been I don't understand why Jaden Thomas is the guy. Like Jesse said, it's like, I think they've lost money on Chris Tyree the last couple of weeks. So they're not
Probably
even putting him on there.
Because he'll have one.
They don't have a grasp on any of these wide receivers.
Look, he's gonna have one big gainer. You watch because he does it every game.
That's him.
Yep, he's gonna have one big play. And look, if you can get 12 big plays out of Chris Tyree this season, then your move to him, or for him to wide receiver, is an absolute success.
Yeah,
an absolute success.
That's right. Especially you get one big play out of him against Ohio State, one big play against USC.
Yep,
you're golden.
Yep.
No matter what happens the rest of the year.
Yeah. Well, I want him to have one big one against Clemson too.
Well,
I mean,
but I think that Ohio State and USC are the two better teams, than
agreed
than Clemson.
Well,
we get to watch that Saturday as well. Clemson, Florida State. Kind of excited about that.
This is true. Well, we'll be out tailgating, Sean.
We will?
Yeah.
At noon?
I thought the game was at 3:30. Is that a noon game?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My fault.
I took the under on the Jaden Thomas receiving.
You took the under? Yeah, I completely agree. Egbuka, 77.5 receiving yards.
Under.
I'll take the under as well. The only way he gets over that is if they are just spending all their time focused on Harrison, and then
someone got to get the yards.
Right. That's the only way that happens.
I agree. I would go under though as well. Travion Henderson, 66.5 rushing yards.
I think he gets that.
So this is tough because they use 2 running backs, and I think it's a matter of who's the hot hand. And you imagine if you take the over on him, you would likely say you're going to take the over on the other guy as well. So you're saying that they're going to combine for about 130, 140 rushing yards. I don't buy that. I think that Travion Henderson hits the under at 66.5.
Taking the over.
I think I lean toward the over as well. He'll get some yards, but I don't think he's going to go nuts by any means. And then Estime.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just saying he only needs like one semi-big run to kind of make that happen. You know what I mean? And I think Notre Dame's going to tackle better than they did last week. I do think that is the case. One missed tackle, and you've got a 30-yard gain. You know what I mean? Like,
still weird that Jack Kaiser is their leading tackler, and like his snap percentage. Obviously, he was out there more last week because Bertrand was out, but his number of snaps is not very high, but he's very efficient when he's out there on the field in terms of making tackles.
Right. Yep, I agree.
Estimate 77.5 was everyone leaning over when we were doing the
over.
Okay. Yeah, I think so too. All right. Well, those are our game props. We do a game prediction and then we're out of here.
We do.
Did we get the over under?
55 and a half
well,
point
I
total
did it
for
in
the
my
game.
parlay.
That's right. 55 and a half. We're about to give our score predictions. I am under on that by a few points.
I'm taking the under as well.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But again, would you be overly surprised if the over happened?
No.
See, me neither. That's why I can't touch this.
I'm not
the thing.
I'm not touching most of these props, but
yeah.
I
Right.
can give you my input on them.
Right. If I'm playing with your money, I'm taking the under, but I would not be surprised if it went over.
I'm not putting my own money on that.
Right. Exactly.
All right, let's do our game predictions. Who's going first?
We should
I
go
heard
age
you're
order.
going first this week.
All right, I'll go first. I've got Notre Dame winning 27-24. Again, I think that this game comes down to how uncomfortable that Notre Dame can make Kyle McCord, put him in those disadvantageous passing situations, disrupt that running game, disrupt him. I don't see him going nuts. I see this going in Notre Dame's favor, and in the end, it comes down to a field goal, and Notre Dame wins 27-24.
I like where your head's at, Sean Stiers. I have Notre Dame winning 28-24.
Ooh,
I know, right? So I was like, dang, we're right there. But yeah, I think it could very well come down to a field goal, first of all, even though I have Notre Dame scoring 4 touchdowns and no field goals. It would not surprise me. And if that is the case, Notre Dame has the advantage in the kicking game, in my personal opinion, as well. This is going to be a one possession game, guys. And there's going to be the ball's going to bounce a certain way. And I have this feeling that it's going to bounce Notre Dame's way. Whatever that thing is that happens, I think Notre Dame benefits from it. And that's what's going to win them the game. But it's still going to be a one possession game. Is it going to be a field goal? Is it going to be a touchdown? I think it's one possession. And I think we're holding our breath the entire game. And I think one of the questions in the mailbag on Wednesday is, when are you going to feel confident Notre Dame wins this game? When it's all zeros on the board in the fourth quarter, man. Like, that's when I will exhale in relief if Notre Dame wins that game.
All right. This is we all had one thing in common in these predictions. I have Ohio State scoring 24 points as well. So we all have Ohio State scoring 24 points. Vince had 28. You had 27. I have Notre Dame winning 30-24 against Ohio State.
That's crazy. We've all been in about the same ballpark with our scores this season.
Yeah.
Like a couple weeks ago, we all had NC State scoring 17 points.
And they end up scoring 24.
Right.
So I hope Ohio State doesn't get another possession, and score this time around. But Notre Dame was way higher than I thought too in all those other scores. So
right.
I think 30 wins the game no matter either
like
side.
A race,
I think if either team
race
hits
to 30.
Yeah, the team that hits 30 wins this game, and the
guaranteed.
team that I guarantee whoever hits 30 wins this game.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
Yep, I don't disagree at all. All right, well, that is going to do it. It should be a fun one.
All that's left to do is to do it.
Woo! That's right. Saturday night, have a good time, and we will talk to you next week. Of course, the post-game show coming up after the game. Who's doing the post-game show this week? Do you know, Vince? You,
me, Brian, the whole gang.
All right.
But the three of us at least. I don't know if there's going to be any extras.
All right. Sounds
Notre Dame wins, Jess. You need to hop in.
I was about to say, depending on how this game goes, if I'm not a little inebriated after the game, you might see me on the after game.
I don't think you could be sauced up on this one, buddy. So you better.
We will talk to you Monday on IB Nation Sports Talk.